Hi, and welcome to Let's Grow. I'm Linda Kelly, Executive Director of the Kelly Mental Health Foundation. We talk about mental health issues and tips and tricks for how to manage your mental health on this show. And today I have with me Steph Depeiro. Hi, Steph.
Hi, how are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for asking me to be on this.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you agreed to come on today because you are all about dance and there's so much more to you. You have such an interesting story. But I think that there's so much to talk about when it comes to mental health and dance. So I thought, who better to talk to?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I agree.
Awesome.
Yes.
So tell me about yourself. What's your background?
I have been involved in dance, working with both entertainment professionals as well as students of all ages and dance ability levels for 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just, my birthday's coming up, so I was thinking about when exact, oh wow, that's going on 21 years ago. I had the city of Thunder Bay reach out to me about doing a class at Ogden Community Center, a hip hop on a Saturday. So I was still very young at the time, but hip hop was the trend. I still dabble in hip hop these days. It's an amazing style. It's evolved. But that's where I started teaching, and I started dancing with Faye at Faye Gleason Dance Center when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, so lots.
So lots of history with dance and lots of history with Thunder Bay.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, I was born here, and this is now where I reside. And I absolutely think there's so much power with dance, the emotional release that it gives, the confidence that it gives. And thank you again for just asking me to be on.
Yeah. So currently, with your work, it seems like you're all over the place. You're associated with a lot of different places.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, I was born here. I live here now, and I am the owner of Army of Sass Thunder Bay, as well as Dance Thunder Bay. Mm-hmm. I collaborate with Donna Marie Barata, who is also a Thunder Bay, ex-Thunder Bay resident, with her Superior Theater Festival. Mm. And I work with the Thunder Bay Society of Ballet and Dance, amongst many others. So I am busy, but I do completely love what I do because of the benefits all around, and that I can continue sharing it and creating spaces that I was given the opportunity to have as a young woman, as a young child. So
There's a lot of people that start with dance early on. It often seems like something that you put your little girl in, but a lot of people kind of drop off after a while. So yeah, really unique that you've been able to stay in it. It's clearly a passion for you.
Agreed. Through the work that I do now, I work with both children, teens, as well as adults. And it's interesting to see that at any age how dance can benefit you. There's a lot of stories that come with people that used to dance. Some really great stories, and then some really unfortunate stories, because dance has always had that, that type of stigma of that you have to be a certain body type, you have to look a certain way to dance. And I love with the work that I'm doing now, that isn't the case at all.
Wow. So there's so many things that come up, and I think part of it, right, is just putting yourself out there and that vulnerability that you face. But when I invited you on the show, I'm a mental health practitioner. Mm-hmm. You're in dance. You see the dynamics with people that are starting out, don't really know what they're doing, are scared or vulnerable. So, ultimately, what I'd really like to know is the benefits. So what do you think, why do you think dancing is good for one's mental health?
I had mentioned already it being like an emotional release for somebody. I think we have different needs, and I think when it comes to a release physically, where you're chilling out, you're watching your Netflix. We all do it more than okay. Do not give that up. Netflix and chill all the way. But I think people do not have too many platforms to be able to have an emotional release. And with the physical nature of what you're doing with dance, as well as your mind you're having a mental release when it comes to being in a dance class. You're focused so hard on one activity, that it's allowing you, no matter what age, to toss away anything else that you've thought about for the day. It's easier said than done. I've been a student in a dance class where you're learning a dance and you're not there, you're not focused. But at the same time, you're not going to not benefit from having the workout of dance. So I think for everybody, having the emotional release, but for me and what dance did to me as a young child, giving me that creative outlet, I think that's really important, especially for somebody that loves music, all different genres, all different styles. It's fun to be able to experiment with that and be involved in a creative moment from a choreographer and with your dance mates or the people dancing around you, your girlfriend. Yeah.
There's
So
seems
much.
like not
I have so much to say.
Yeah, no, that's great. It just seems sometimes like we don't have a lot of ability to, not ability, but maybe opportunity to be creative as adults. We're constantly fed a stream of social media and information constantly coming into our heads. And so like part of what I thought the release of dance was about was that you got to put your phone down. So that could be
that is
part
one
of it.
thing.
But then dance is also different from mowing the lawn, right? So, I mean, that having that creative outlet just has to, like, what does that do for people?
I think it takes away judgment. I have a story about me taking a dance class, ballroom dance class with Tango North. And I had to challenge myself after years of dance, doing professional dance, performing, teaching for years. I was put in a position where I had to allow somebody to lead me. So I was, even though, you could give me a 5, 6, 7, 8 and a choreographed movement, which I have done with partners and partner work, to actually have somebody lead you is a completely different release. So I think just being able to tap into a different focus, but at the same time challenging yourself with something in a creative way, such as dance. So if you're taking a cue from a choreographer, I know with what I do with Army of Sass, we are putting women in 10-week programs and then throwing them up on stage. Yeah, right. Sounds crazy.
And these are non-professional dancers.
Non-professional dancers. Army of Sass is a great program, a heels dance program that I could get into way more, but it really is a great program for dancers of all shapes and sizes and all ability levels, 18 and older. And when I say 18 and older, we've had our sassy seniors come in and perform. And those are women in their 60s, 70s. So it's such a wide variety. We also have males. If you're willing to come and be sassy and strap on a pair of heels and do the same work we're doing, that's great. Come along. But it's a great challenge for them. They're having that boot camp style, but then we're asking them to now step in front of their family and friends in a costume and show them what you've learned in 10 weeks, which is 20, a little bit less hours of rehearsal time. And I think just being able to challenge yourself at any age to do that is, you need to walk out of there understanding how unbelievable you are for just trying, because we're all in it together. Whether you're an advanced level pre-professional dancer training in that heel style or a beginner dancer training in that heel style, you're still all doing the same thing, and it's amazing.
So from a mental health perspective, stepping out onto a stage as an untrained person sounds nuts. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the impact on mental health when it comes to allowing yourself to be vulnerable and dancing. Welcome back to Let's Grow. I'm Linda Kelly, your host. I'm here with Steph Depeiro, and we were talking about the vulnerability and the mental health impact involved in dance. So back to what you were saying before, we were kind of talking about the dynamics of dance and how it impacts, like it is an emotional release, but it also takes being very mindful of your surroundings, of your body, of yourself. So that's takes a lot of courage, I think.
It takes a lot of courage, and dancers at any age, like when I came into dance with Fake Gleason Dance Center, I was 8 years old. I was a little physically aware, having done gymnastics, but having that release of emotional energy as an 8-year-old with so much energy is, I think, important for a child to be able to do, whether you're, a young boy, a young girl, however you identify. It's so, so important at any age to be able to have that release. And the mindfulness of your body gets translated into, I think, how you conduct yourself out in public as well. I think it's important, dance gives you a certain awareness of your posture and your physical body and how you're standing and how you're walking. So the benefits with that have helped me be confident in different areas of my life. As well.
Right, because it gives you that strength, right? It's just like, in mental health treatment, a lot of times we recommend do the Superman pose. You're just standing with your chest out, and it makes you feel more courageous. Well, then if you are doing this work and you are really feeling your body, feeling the length of your body and your strength and your muscles, I think it allows us to be more confident in the real world.
And you're also practicing visualization too. Right. So if you're preparing for a performance or a dance competition or, a charity show of some kind, your choreographer or your dance teacher is also telling you to visualize the moment and visualize what story you're trying to tell. So on top of all that awareness, you're visualizing. So that is something I've translated into business that I do, and business dealings or even interviews, like going for my first interview with the city at 21 years ago for my first job. It's been able to translate into that sort of confidence, or using those skills that you learn in a studio and in a dance class, and you translate it into everyday life. I think that's what I preach to my students, and that's how I've been taught as well. So,
dance has been a part of human culture since the beginning of time.
Celebration of life, celebration of death.
Right. And mourning is a really big thing that people used to have the freedom to get loud about being in grief. And it seems like our society has changed a whole lot. Even, there's no such thing as a dinner dancing place anymore.
I'd love to see one.
Right?
Yes.
We should start one.
Yes.
But even just things like school dances are becoming more rigid and not occurring as often. And what impact do you think that has had on our society, just this loss of dance as part of our culture?
Let's go right back to the emotional release. Where are people getting that sort of release, that social interaction? I think what stops people from trying dance or being scared to go back to dance, or a young child not sure whether they like it. Sometimes, they'll see it on stage, but going to jump into a dance class is a completely other thing for a young child. But to be encouraged at any age to just drop the judgment and to try a dance class would be helpful for anybody. But I also think it used to be easier because people had some sort of even practice just dancing socially with each other. So I think what's happening is I see that going backwards, unfortunately. How about you?
Well, I was going to kind of say the same thing about singing, or when I try to teach my son something, he has an affinity for some kind of activity, and I go, okay, let's give you guitar lessons, or okay, and instead of just letting him mess around and enjoy it and develop himself naturally, it's like, hey, rigid, let's go put you in lessons. So it's just, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that that's gone from our society, or maybe we just feel like there's always a mirror on us. There's always someone watching and we can't do anything.
Well, there is.
Right?
Right, there is. And that plays, that's a catch-22, because social media has really helped me grow as a dancer and as a choreographer here locally, as well across the relationships I have across the country, and with the business that I do here. But social media can be a crazy place. You just have to have that balance. And I think incorporating dance somewhere, there's so many facilities that do offer some sort of dance in the city. So to go out and try all of them is what I would suggest for people not to be scared to do. Because once you're there, you'll realize how much fun it is. And don't just try one form of dance. I just gave an example of, being a dancer, and I still train. I still love trying new styles and trying different forms of dance, because it keeps me, I have a list that I still want to try, because it's an amazing thing to be able to go back, strip yourself down, and just be a student again. So I encourage people to really do it, whether it's with myself or somebody else, or even try it in a bigger city. If you go on a trip, look up drop-in dance classes, especially in a large city.
Right.
And try it there where no one knows who
you.
you are. There you go, right? But it is so important to be able to try, and not just try once. I'd give it a 1, 2, 3 type of thing. Try different styles, try different teachers, and also no certifications, right? I think that's with anything that you do. Go into, somebody that has the experience and has some sort of certification, and you will enjoy yourself, and it'll be way less hard than you think it's going to be, and scary.
So tell me about, just before we go to break, just tell me about some of the challenges you've seen with people that you have taught, maybe, body image and confidence, and is there anything specific that comes to mind?
Body awareness, for sure, of understanding your body, and comfortability with your body. So working with adults has its own challenges versus working with children and teens. There's two different age groups that you want to see certain things from. But being comfortable with knowing what your body can do and testing out your limitations, I think, is a challenge from any age. And it's different approaches, but ultimately that seems to be a huge challenge. And if you're going into dance as just like a class, I think those two things, the body awareness and the comfortability with your body. But if you're going into dance as a young competitor or performing, I think having that confidence to get up on stage in front of, grandma, grandpa, your family, your friends, that's a whole other challenge that I see happen.
So very different then, just having the competitive edge versus the social, just trying it out.
For me, I've worked in the schools, I've worked with entertainment professionals. I go into everything I do in studio, whether I'm rehearsing with a professional, whether I'm rehearsing with a beginner, as the fun that's going to come out of it. You look at those shows, Dancing with the Stars, everyone likes the behind the scenes more than they even like the performance because it's all the fun. It's truly like the fun that you're having behind the scenes, and that hard work that's going to be put in. And I don't just mean physical hard work, but the hard work of just getting to class. You will have such a release and such a happy, positive, fun feelings leaving that class, just because of the work that you put in getting there and in doing the class in the first place.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the interpersonal issues that are faced in dance groups. Welcome back to Let's Grow. I'm Linda Kelly, your host, and I'm here with Steph Depeiro talking about dance. So one of the things that I did want to ask about in your practice. I mean, you have so much experience, especially working with groups. And I'm curious about some of the interpersonal issues that might come up when you're pairing new dancers, potentially some self-esteem issues, potentially some body image issues. You're putting them all together and telling them act like a team. What happens?
Well, that's a smorgasbord of.
I'm sorry.
Just, that's
Yeah.
a lot can happen, and I think it all depends on who's paired with who. Sometimes, not every child returns every session, or, every adult returns every show that you're doing or something like that. So when you're preparing a group of people, you have to be prepared for anything. I think that when people are struggling with certain barriers and certain challenges themselves, they don't know how to communicate that even to themselves, especially if it's something new. So to sit there and not know how to deal with your own emotions of self-esteem, of jealousy, maybe not realizing that move that your friend is doing, they're doing it a little bit better than you. Sometimes, you're not sure how to handle that. And I think that even in children and teens, they tend to have that conversation and be okay with having that conversation because they're more curious about the answers than are worried about what the answers will be versus child to adult. I think us adults are even scared to figure out why we're having those challenges. Why are we having those barriers? What scares me from wearing that costume? What scares me from doing that move? Depending what age group you're working with, those can be the same barriers, but how that group is going to handle them can be very different. So with the experience I have had is what I think allows me to be able, as a professional and what I do and the organizations that I work with, is have such a good experience with those that I work with. Mm-hmm. Is that, they trust that the information I'm giving them and the choreography that I'm giving them and the way I'm leading them, they're putting trust in me too as a professional. But
so that also puts you in a position where you have to be trustworthy, right? You have to build up those relationships. Because I'm flashing back right now to a step aerobics class where I was just glaring at the instructor the entire time because she was doing it wrong. Or I was very, very tired and another girl's in the class and she's jumping all over her board and I'm like, instead of thinking, wow, how can I get that energy? I was like, I hate her. Mm-hmm. So just the dynamics of what's going on individually has such a big impact on the whole class. Right. And how you act as the instructor. It affects the whole class, how they perceive each other, how they perceive the dance, and you.
I think I'm in an amazing position. The work that I do as a teacher is an amazing position to be in, because ultimately we are teaching dance steps, dance moves. But when I tell my students that I see everything, I do. I see everything. I know exactly what mood's going through the door. I think I've even had moments to address that or acknowledge that at the beginning of class, and my students, all their mouths will drop. Like, how did she know that that's my day? How did she know that that was what I was feeling? And I think to be able to have a good experience, you have to be very aware of that. Because ultimately you just want people to have a fun experience with dance, to get the work done. Right. Like I am a sergeant across the board. I always have been back in the day. When I first started teaching, I love to have fun but get the work done. So I think that's one of my strengths as well. But I am very grateful for the position that I'm in. I love teaching dance to all ages.
I hear that. I hear that passion. Mm-hmm. And so, again, that kind of puts you in the position of really having to fiercely guard the atmosphere.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Because if someone comes in and they're in a bad mood or they're having a really hard day and I don't know, maybe they have less patience and then the people around them notice and everyone gets more tense, then people start making more mistakes and that's where you pick up on each other's.
And the energy of the room is completely different.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So then when you see that, you're making a habit of pointing it out. So how do you diffuse that situation rather than putting someone on the spot?
just knowing if that's the right moment of time to point it out too. I think that I like to share my experiences too with my students, share stories about my challenges as a dancer, but I also believe practice what you preach. I'm still dancing, I'm still performing, and that doesn't mean stopping as well. That means I'm evolving. So I think my students being able to firsthand see challenges that I have, my teen students, even my adult students, they see that I'm still willing to put myself into those challenging places, and also share with them that the work that I do is challenging in itself, and teaching them is challenging in itself. I think just having that open, honest communication as a dance instructor and as a leader of dance in this community and in Thunder Bay is a big job, but I will take it on.
That is in essence, it's leading with vulnerability.
Yes.
And that is all in vogue these days because it's what works. It's really being down to earth and human with people. Right?
I'm an emotional being. To do the work and to be connected to the work that I do as a dance artist and as a creative, I have to understand my emotions. I have to understand emotions of a song, of a scene, of a project. But it also allows me to tap in and understand other people's vulnerability too. So it's a really cool position to be in, to be able to still have dance in my life. And I don't know where I would be without the emotional release. So as much as it brings me challenges for the business side that I do in dance, where in Thunder Bay, I feel like I'm a leader even to other dancers and other choreographers and other young and up and coming studios or entrepreneurs in dance. But I love it because it still is giving me an emotional release and a creative outlet. So,
wow. If only we were all that lucky to have our workplace as our coping skill.
But again, let dance challenge you in a way that those challenges in your other life become easy, because that jazz square or that 5, 6, 7, 8 or that head whip or that kick was that much harder than whatever you actually have to tackle at home. And it needs to translate into your everyday life. And I see that happening in my students, and I couldn't be more proud of the work that they're doing as well.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for all this information. And I love talking with you about this stuff.
Thank you so much for giving me a platform to speak about it.
It's been wonderful. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time.